Good afternoon. I will call the meeting to order and just acknowledge that this is, notwithstanding any emergencies, this is the last meeting of this term. I will do the land acknowledgement first, then I have another comment. We respectfully acknowledge that, we respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Algonquin Highlands is located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We also acknowledge historical shared presence of other Indigenous nations throughout the area. We recognize these original Indigenous inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. Approval of the agenda, please.
Moved by Councillor Dayu, seconded by Deputy Mayor Danson. Be it resolved, Council approves the October 27th, 2022 special meeting agenda.
Actually, I'm sorry, before that was my comment that I immediately forgot, is mayor's remarks and any council comments based on this being the last meeting. I'm moving to the very end of, it'll be 8B. That changes the agenda. So it'll be as amended, I guess.
Amended.
You okay with that?
Mhm.
Okay, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? New business. I think we'll bring Chad in about the website.
Good
Hello,
afternoon.
Chad.
Good afternoon.
This is coming back from our previous meeting. We had a few things that needed a little bit of housekeeping in regard to the website. So take us through that, please.
Yeah, there are a few items and they're outlined in the reports. 4 of them are from the communications plan. And then one that is not directly mentioned in the communications plan pertaining to websites, but could be a subject for today is the museums and whether they should be housed on the new central site.
Okay, so just looking for council direction, we had talked about this in the very beginning, whether the museums, 2 museum websites, they are hosted separately, if they should be brought inside. It's very unusual for townships to have as many external sites as we have had over the years. So looking for council's thoughts on bringing those inside the corporate mothership. Councillor Dayu.
Yeah, I think that makes great sense, but I also think there is still scope for those sub pages to have the character and the tone that really emphasizes what they're offering to our community. So it doesn't have to mimic every other page in the website. I would have thought there's still a lot of scope for creativity there.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that was talked about, I know Chad came and talked to the Stanhope Museum folks, that they do a lot of, not so much about the Dorset Museum, but I know the Stanhope folks do some of their own changes. Certainly would leave that with staff, but there's 2 choices. Either there's an opportunity for there to be limited access to change dates of events on those particular pages, or just let the groups know that if they have things that need changing, they have to contact Chad. So either way, I think whatever is easiest for Chad or most convenient, and in keeping with the rest of the department heads and other groups, what they're doing. Deputy Mayor Danielson.
I think it probably is the best move to bring them in house. The only thing that I was left unsure about what the Stanhope Museum group wanted to do. I know that they're very active, and I don't know how active Dorset is, but I just it would work in that way that that they would have to call Chad and say, here's what we want on the website, as opposed to them being able to access it and work on it themselves.
Yeah, I think one of the whole purpose of bringing the various pages inside is to let the communications coordinator do what he was hired to do, which is make those changes. So I think that's something that can be sorted out internally. I mean, I think there's also some county IT issues with who has access to the township website. So I think we would let those conversations unfold as they do. So I'm hearing general concurrence for the museums to come inside inside. And I think Councillor Day makes a good point about, retaining the spirit of them as best they can going forward. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering if there's been any communication with Dorset about this.
Chad, did you talk to them at all?
I have not spoken to Dorset. So I will do that immediately following this meeting.
Okay. Okay, so I'm hearing yes on that one. And then Councillor Barry.
Yeah, I think probably the main thing will be that, or updates, it's mainly events, as long as there's an easy access through Chad, I think, or the communication officer, I think it's not an issue. I think it makes perfect sense.
Mhm. Yeah, and it goes along hand in hand with the recommendations Chad made in the initial report about, every department and their brother had a Facebook page and Instagram account and Twitter, and most of them were not created within a framework or approved. They were just sort of done, and that's unusual. Okay, so the next question then is about the trails website, and the reason it stayed separate for many years is because it was huge. It's a big site. Chad, what are your thoughts on that?
To me, it is logical to have all the trails material together. So whether that's on the central site or whether that's on a separate site that is accessed through the homepage of the central site, then that's fine. I think it should all be in one place. It's the big thing.
I would think dealing with the trails information alone is why it's a 14-week project, or however many weeks it is. So is council okay with that as well? Just bring things inside. Councillor Barry?
Just a question about that. I know that there's a lot of people that, search out the trails. Would there be any loss in like search engines and that type of thing by people searching, they don't need to know that they have to come to the Algonquin Highlands website, like if they searched up Algonquin trails?
Yeah, I think Chad can answer that. The SEO will recalibrate itself, will it not?
That's exactly right. Search engines we have no control over. Essentially, it will do that itself.
Mm-hmm. And another note there that the truth and reconciliation piece will be added as well. And I do know that we talked briefly before about, it's not our job to design a website, but Councillor Dayu certainly had some thoughts about what's council's vision for what this looks like. And I think we know that somewhere we want it to have Adventure Begins Here, because we went to a lot of effort. We did speak about that previously. And I think ensuring that the site yes, it is a corporate site, but to your words, that it can still be warm and friendly and be couched in sort of who we want this to be. And then I would imagine at some point the new council may wish to see, and Chad, you mentioned this, either have a look at the breadcrumb trail or make sure that that accurately reflects what it is council wants to be the public facing.
My plan is once we have essentially a working prototype is to bring it to council in this forum, collect some feedback, take it back to GHD, do any tweaks, and proceed from there.
Mm-hmm. So just thoughts on that. I'll go to you because it was something that was important to you. So.
Yeah, it's great. Obviously, I love the fact that this is happening, and Angie and I were chatting yesterday too, and agreeing that websites provide such a wonderful opportunity to optimize our communication and our sense of welcome to the people in our community. So, Chad, I'm so glad that you're doing it, and I look forward to seeing what you have. I'm kind of caught on our tagline, which is Adventure Begins Here. I think it's fabulous. I think it describes us to a T. And if I had any offering at this stage to Chad and to council and to staff, wouldn't it be great if the tone of our website held that spirit in it? So it would have all of the accurate information, it would have the professional writing that it requires, but at the same time, it would welcome people to this place where adventure truly begins. And within that, we've got lots of different priorities that are outlined in our strategic vision, which I think can also find more of a home here in the website. One of my all-time favorites, as you know, it's environmental protection. And there are other township websites out there that have an environmental protection drop-down menu right there on the front page of their website to talk about pollinators, why septic reinspection is so important and where we are in that process, invasive species, algae blooms, all of the, and waste diversion and our plans for waste diversion and waste reduction. And all of these things fit into our desire to protect our beautiful and natural heritage, but also really match adventure begins here and the whole concept of leave no trace. It all blends together and gives a sense of who we are as a community. So that being said, I really look forward to what Chad comes back with, and I hope council would agree that that we might see some optimization in that way.
Yeah, it's a chance for a fresh start. And you and I were speaking the other day, and very quickly we had looked at other communities that had the same company do their website, and two local examples are both Minden and Dysart, and they're very similar, and yet they're just slightly different. And the Dysart one, it has that warmth, that friendly, it's just phrased differently. So there can be some nuanced changes that you guys can look at as you move through the process, and it'll be, I think, several months before council sees anything, and that'll be exciting. Deputy Mayor Danielson and then Councillor Barry.
Well, and I do think that, I mean, it's hard for all of that to happen at once. I think that, as we reestablish committees and committees, do work on, some of the environmental things that you mentioned, that those things can be added as we go along.
Yeah, you're right. It's certainly not a done deal. I mean, a website can be launched and then modified and tweaked as you go. Councillor Barry.
One of the discussion points in the report is relocating the news and notice function from the current township site to the Let's Connect Algonquin Highlands website. I just wonder about if people are searching for things that are news or up and coming, how do they know to go to the Let's Connect? To me, it has a different heading and a different reason why you would go to it. I personally, I'm always visiting the calendar. So I'm just wondering, how do we link the Let's Connect is how they get to news and notices?
I'm going to go with you have to sign up for it, but Chad's going to tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's through the mayor. When I'm talking about news and notices, I'm talking about the emails that go out directly to subscribers. On the new central website, we'll definitely still have, there are going to be 2 calendars, and there will be space for events and general township news. What I'm talking about there is the emails that actually go out to people who have subscribed going through the Let's Connect site.
Yeah, and that's part of the greater push, in moving ahead is what I feel like needs to be a recalibration of communication, and encouraging people to sign up and to better participate. We've heard through a number of contentious issues, and certainly through the election, that there's a great belief out there that no one's listening. And I would say, from our perspective, we feel like no one's listening. There's myriad ways to receive the information that the township is making available to the public, and yet people still don't know. So there's going to be a lot of work I think on Chad's plate to marry those, to get folks to it's a two-way street. So we're going to do this brand new website. It's going to be, have all this great information and a whole new look, feel, style, and one-stop shopping for you to be engaged in what it is we're doing. And hopefully people will sign up and take advantage of that opportunity to actually, be involved and participate.
Question for Chad.
Mm-hmm.
Chad, what is the scope for shifting what some of those sign-up parameters might be? For example, could I potentially sign up for any news that's coming out regarding the water and ski trails, or anything that's going on for kids, new programming for kids? Is it fairly simple to create those parameters, or does that create a whole new scope of work for you?
So on Let's Connect, it is fairly simple. I can curate specialized email lists. So I can say, do you want children's programming? Yes. Do you want environmental news? Yes. You don't want landfill for some reason, even though everyone will, but you can curate that. Yes. So I can create a bunch of different email lists, and you might be on 3 of them,
Yeah, and I think I'm glad you raised that. We may have talked about that, but I know people have told me over the years that the reason, I signed up to news and notices, but I unsubscribed because I got everything. And they want to be able to pick the things that they're interested in knowing about that's relevant to their life. So that's a really important one. So good. Go ahead.
And a further question, do you think in the new system, we might be able to bypass the click here for the actual news segment to the email? Because sometimes I get all the news and notices, and sometimes I see that, there's the title that comes through, but in order for me to get the actual goods, I've got to click on the link. And a lot of the time I don't click on the link. Is it thought that we might bypass that and just put that information out there in the email?
Through the mayor. So the Let's Connect newsletter function looks exactly like a newsletter, a physical paper newsletter, like you're unfolding in the mail, and within the newsletter, there'll be hyperlinks.
Yeah, and actually I requested a change how many years ago, because the news notices used to come out saying a new notice has been posted. So I said, can we please say that it's about, fish or eggs or landfill or ski trails? And so we got that changed, but you still have to, and I think you lose people. I think the more the more clicks, the more you lose people. So if there's anything like that we can do to modernize the way that we invite the public to participate, then that will help that two-way street. Anything else you want to talk to us about web sites, Mr. Ingram?
I think I'm good. That gives me direction.
Okay, anything else from council? We have a resolution.
Moved by Councillor Barry, second by Councillor Short-Reed. Be it resolved, council receives report COM 722 submitted by Chad Ingram and dated October 27th, 2022 regarding the new corporate website. For information, and the council directs museum websites be brought into the township's corporate website.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, council, and thank you, Madam Mayor, for many years of service to the Township of Algonquin Highlands.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. Our second report of the day is the level of service policy around Bear Lake Road. It's taken us a long time to get here. And I believe that this is the CAO's report, but I believe that Adam is coming in to join us as well. Hello, Adam.
Hello, Mayor and Council.
Thank you for joining us. I think Angie will take us through her report and we'll carry on from there.
Thank you. This is a follow-up to Council's direction of October 4th special meeting. Council obviously will recall that there was a resolution passed directing that a level of service policy be developed for the maintenance of Bear Lake Road. So that's what council has before them today. It does outline specifically what we feel should be carried out on Bear Lake Road in accordance with the Ontario regulation. And it will provide, very specific parameters for staff when doing work on Bear Lake Road. So without going through each line on that, certainly if you have any questions, answer. It is a joint effort between Adam and I.
Looking for thoughts from council. Deputy Mayor Danielson.
A couple of questions. I think one of the things we talked about at our last meeting was doing. Sorry, a couple of questions. One of the things that we talked about at the last meeting was doing an inspection at the end of the season of the bridge. And I just wondered if we had done that or if that's the plan to do an inspection of the bridge. And I wondered if these dates, if what we're outlining for the work that we're going to do is in line basically with the work that we have been doing and the time frame within which we've been doing it. Like, I'm just wondering about the dates. Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Yes, it is generally what we've been doing as far as timelines go. It's always, because it is a seasonal road anyway, we do that within those months for sure. Adam, I don't know if maybe Adam could speak to specifically, but there's never been a commitment to, we'll do grading on the 15th day of
No,
June.
that's unreasonable.
Certainly and again, maybe Adam can speak to it, but the grading, for example, this is a more broad commitment for sure than committing to once a month, for example. Yeah.
Adam, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. Typically, we only maintain seasonal roads between the months of later into the May and October 31st, generally. Sorry, October 15th. So mid-May to mid-October. But that doesn't mean we get on the road right at the 1st of May or mid-May. It's usually whenever the ground allows us and the temperatures and the conditions allow us to put equipment through. Some of the biggest struggles we face with seasonal roads is, yes, a pickup truck can go through and it's a little bit muddy, but when we start putting something that weighs 15 ton on the road, it sinks a little bit deeper than a truck. So we have to wait a little bit longer.
Councillor Dayu.
Thanks. Follow-up question to that, actually. Say a year comes about and spring comes early. It feels like it never happens, but it does sometimes. So spring comes early and the road appears more clear. And I've been told by members of the association that they believe that the road will likely clear faster after it's been plowed rather than in the event of it not being plowed. So say your schedule sort of moves up a little bit to open up seasonal roads because of the spring conditions. Would your treatment for Bear Lake Road also move up in conjunction with the other roads, or would you stick to the policy saying May 31st would be the first day? So how flexible is that based on your normal seasonal changes?
So through you, Mayor, typically it does vary on the weather. We haven't really gone out before May 15th to do any kind of maintenance on the road, just strictly because we hold ourselves to that time frame. Because because pickup trucks and cars and SUVs can get through the road, when we start putting a grader on the road that weighs 10 times the size of a regular pickup truck, it does just sink out of sight, and it makes it even worse for repairing. So if Bear Lake Road that's basically in a nutshell. We wouldn't really get on it any earlier than any other seasonal road.
Yeah, I think one of the concerns that we have talked about before is with the news that it is a forest access road under the Public Lands Act. It can be used by anybody for anything. It may not be, but it might be. And if it's mushy in the spring, then it's mushy in the spring. There's no in the policy, the third under policy in the document. It says maintenance activities will be included in the annual budget and will only be carried out through the regular scheduled work plans. So should something befall the road prior to the regularly scheduled work plan that Adam has just said, there is some flexibility depending on the season. There's no emergency phone number. So there's no opportunity for folks to say, oh, the roads, somebody went through there with a bunch of ATVs and it's mushy. Can you come and grade it? The answer is no. It will be taken care of in accordance with this policy. So if it may well be the case that, as we learned last year, that even with the road being partially used by the logging company, that it did clear earlier and it would pack better and it was fine. So fingers crossed that's how that stays. But if it is misused or in any way problematic prior to the scheduled plan, there's no 911 to fix Bear Lake Road, is what I mean.
Well, this is a test. I mean, we've all kind of agreed that this is a trial period. We'll see how it goes. And the only unfortunate part with having a 1-year test is that the following year might be different. I mean, it's there's just no telling what the road's going to be like. And that's why I think, well, I know that there have been some questions asked about the June 1st date, but that's probably a good safe date for work to begin.
Yeah, and I To Councillor's Diane's question, if the weather of any particular spring warrants an earlier start, as it would on any other road, then it warrants a earlier start as it would on any other road. So, but the caveat, the follow-up to that is, but not because anybody phones and says the road needs to be done. It'll be done when the public works people in their qualified purview decide to start doing the seasonal roads. It just becomes part of that. And I just wanted to reiterate too that, you know, this is a trial, as you just said, and it may take a number of years to get it tweaked.
Mhm.
There'll be lots of learning going on. And just keep in mind, though, legal counsel, of course, did provide extreme caution about doing work on a road you don't own. So that's the reason for the trial. Three more things that are follow-ups to previous discussions is the agreement with the Bear Lake Road Association. You're going to talk a little bit about that because that's part of the deal, and that will come from legal counsel. Carry on.
Yes, just to speak to that quickly is, we will be developing a policy that we will provide to the Bear Lake Road Winter Maintenance Group that obviously we will need to come to an agreement on. And I have received just yesterday, a template for that agreement. So that's underway.
Okay, anything questions on that?
I've heard from a few folk on the road with specific questions about what minor maintenance means. And I wonder if I could put those out there now for everyone's clarity. That's all right. Someone wrote to this.
I was just going to say, I might be able to cut that off the pass for you with the letter idea.
Oh, well, sure. But even for my own edification.
What people are saying.
What people are saying and the questions they've got, because I doubt the letter will come out with every single scenario outlined. So these are a couple of the scenarios, just two scenarios that folks have been asking about. So one individual wrote and says, in the past, hills have been paved to stop erosion. Would this still be a minor repair for the road?
I think that would be a capital.
That would be a capital project.
That would be a capital
Yeah, so
project.
that
Okay.
will not happen.
Okay. Currently, Genie Lake is almost overtopping the road and needs the beaver dam removed. This is not at the road, but across the lake. Is this considered a minor repair to save the road?
I'm going to go with
Adam.
no, but Adam's the guy to answer that. See, beavers and beaver dams are extremely problematic for roads, and it very often depends where the beavers live and whose land they're on, which is usually Crown. But Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, so typical practice for public works staff would be to only clear the debris away from the culvert. So if a beaver is digging and creating a beaver dam at the entrance of a culvert, that would be the most that our staff would clean out. Anything further away from that on out in the pond somewhere, we would not address that. That would not be under the purview of minimum maintenance for our staff.
Okay, but the property owners could certainly, if they have concerns about a beaver dam over there creating problems, they could contact the ministry.
Right. Okay.
And see if the ministry would take care of that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then finally, I've heard from Mayor, from the CAO, from Adam, and I understand the policy as it is written is really trying to create a dividing line between regular minor maintenance and the 911 phone number. You know, we've got a problem, and I fully appreciate the reason for that. There are, however, calls for things like if a major tree falls on the road, and if I've got my chainsaw in the back, I might be able to clear a section of that road, but then I'll probably just leave the rest of the tree. And is there any scope for is there any scope in this trial period to think about certain kinds of services that would go beyond this restricted scope of scheduled works, such as tree removal?
I would be a hard no on that. That's just me. There's 5 people here. Yeah, because what's to say today it's a tree, tomorrow it's a limb, the next day it's a, I don't know what. And I think that I go back, to the fact that the lawyer said you shouldn't even be there in the first place. So we've already received communication from somebody else who thinks we should be looking at taking care of other crown roads in our territory. This is the potential for a small scale successful partnership in this particular location, or it's the potential for for hell in a handbasket in terms of getting involved, pressure to get involved in all kinds of different places. So I think it has to be. It's the first year of a trial, and we have to let it play out as tightly as possible. You can't. It's more difficult to pull things back in than to loosen them, and you can't have everything you want. So it was made very clear to me, you're going to take care of it, we're going to plow it, and you're not going to take anything away. And it'll be better going forward. So we let the process unfold, and we are here. And I think this is a generous compromise. But I think other people who need to talk about this, I think that it's that slippery slope. So yeah, I mean, my husband's cut trees off of Washcon Lake Road in a storm. Like, I think it's important that we hold fast and see how it plays out in the trial. I certainly am not willing to go in that direction at all. After today, it won't matter what I think, but yeah, as far as we've come so far to get here, and there's an awful lot of angst behind the scenes that we're not going to talk about out loud because it would be rude and disrespectful, but this has not been a fun process. There's been a lot of terrible things said, a lot of accusations leveled at staff, unkind words about council. And so I'm not prepared to give an inch. I'm prepared to go here, and that's it, because of a lot of that.
Well, I'm going to say the same thing in a different way. I just, we're establishing a policy. And to me, policy is policy. We're doing it for a trial year to see how it works. And I think if we start stepping outside of the terms of the policy and the agreement that we're going to put in place with the road association, that it could be problematic. And I mean, I hear what you're saying, because it will happen, and we'll have to iron our way through these things. But I do think that we need to stick to it. If we're going to accept this policy, we got to stick to it, or rewrite the policy.
That's why it's
After
trial.
a year.
That's why it's a trial. Lisa Berry.
Yeah, I appreciate the report and the trial policy as it's written in a draft. My one question is, should it say within the draft when that review process happens? Like, would it be a year from now?
We talked about this the other day. Do you want to share that?
Certainly we could put a date in there. I think we really do need to give staff a full
Year.
almost year to evaluate it and bring it back. It will absolutely be before, sort of before next winter, when the plowing would start again.
Because it does say, it's funny because I asked Angie a number of the same questions. A review of the policy and the minor maintenance practices on the road will be reviewed annually with findings and recommendations reported. And that's where that, if there is any flexibility in it, that's where it will happen. So Adam will come back and say, it was fabulous. Everything worked tickety-boo. Wasn't it great? I recommend another year the way it is. Or he might come back and say, well, we had this and the tree fell 3 times a week and we had that. And then there's a recalibration. So that would have to come back. I would say late spring, after the spring inspections are done, but again, whatever Adam decides is the appropriate time to do that. That would give plenty of time for council then to look at anything that needs to be tweaked. Lisa Berry.
Just as sort of a further to what Jen's saying, I know myself, I live on a municipal road and I've been in multitude of storms and trees coming down and stuff. And as far as I'm concerned, the township half the time doesn't have a chance to come because it's like full chainsaw, like everyone in the municipality comes together and does that. So hopefully there's still that spirit, and I'm optimistic this can work.
Yeah, I'm very hopeful it'll work. And I say, I think it's been a long way getting here. It's a reasonable compromise, and it's the first year. So fingers crossed it all works really well, and we'll see where we go. Follow-up is that I have 3 things. I did the one that was the agreement with the association. We did talk about there needing to be an itemized accounting of costs as part of the trial assessment, so that there's a specific dollar amount attached, so people do know what it is costing the township to do that. And the other thing that I'm sure there'll be support for is that I have had 2 emails in the last 3 days of people who are not fans of the road being plowed. And they don't understand, there seems to be some misunderstanding as to why the township is allowing this to happen, and not understanding that it's surprise, it's crown land and we're out, like it's just not our land, but that we have agreed to this maintenance compromise in honor of the 50 years of having done similar. So we do know that there are people who don't want it plowed, which we knew before. So I'd like to suggest that staff send out a letter to the users of Bear Lake Road in a general explanation of what, why, and how. Explain that anybody can use it for any reason, and they can use any tool or machine on it under, like, as in accordance with the Public Lands Act. Outline what will and won't be done as contained in this policy. And I think additionally too, we know we did receive some photographic evidence that there was a sign that was put up from the Bear Lake Road winter maintenance people that said you can't use this road unless you're a member, and they have no right to do that. So we need to also let folks know that no one has the authority to govern that road or force a membership or, you know, tell them what to do, because there's a lot of people who use that road who are concerned that that the boss of the road is now the association. So there's a real misunderstanding there. So just let's make that clear for folks. Also maybe provide OPP and ministry phone numbers if we can, because people will phone the township, or they may phone you as elected officials and say, there's a problem on Bear Lake Road. What are you going to do about it? And so we also have to be provided the answer to say, I'm sorry, it's not our road. You're going to have to call, you know, OPP or the ministry. And then a little bit about the trial basis. So I think I'm going to suspect that council would concur with having the courtesy of a letter to all users of the road to explain how we got here and what it means and what will happen going forward and who they need to contact if there are challenges. I'm seeing nods. Councillor Shortreed.
I just think it's a really, really good idea. It's going to give them the facts, the honest truth, and it will stop the wondering of who says what to who and what's right and what's wrong. I think it's really, really needed.
Yeah, and I think based on, and I'm not on the page, but a little bit of chatter that there's already been some, you know, people taken to Facebook instead of calling to get the facts. So let's avoid that, and let's be proactive in sending out the information to the people. See how we go. Deputy Mayor Danielson.
I just wonder what level of communication there has been with the Snowmobile Association, if any.
Talk to them yet?
We haven't talked to them yet, no.
Yeah, because they'll need to know that they will have to undertake some way to inform users that
Their members.
their members and their users that there's, you warned. Yeah, there's a change of use on the road for sure. Okay, so is there anything else around this that we need to button up? I'm pleased with the work that council and staff have done to get us here. I keep saying it's been a long road, and it has been, but we're here. So fingers crossed that it's all tickety-boo and everybody's happy, and we just carry on year by year. Anything, anybody? Okay, we have a resolution.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, second by Councillor Dayu. Be it resolved, council receives report CAO 1122 regarding level of service trial policy, Bear Lake Road, submitted by Angie Bird and dated October 27th, 2022. And that council supports the proposed policy and directs a bylaw be tabled to adopt the said policy.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And bylaws.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Danielson, second by Councillor Barry. Be it resolved that bylaw 2022-108, being a bylaw to adopt level of service trial policy regarding Bear Lake Road, be received and read a first time, considered read a second and third time, and finally passed with a corporate seal affixed.
All in favor? That is carried. How far did I say it was going? Confirmatory? Yes. Was that confirmatory, or what was that? That was confirmatory.
No, we're doing.
Oh, you're doing that now.
Can I just get a mover and a seconder for the motion, please?
Short Read and Berry.
Moved by Counselor Short Reed, second by Counselor Barry, be it resolved that bylaw 2022-109 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council held during its October 27th, 2022 special meeting be received and read a first time, considered read a second, and third time, and finally passed with a corporate seal affixed.
All in favor? That's carried. Okay, we are coming very closely to the end. Our last couple of things in this term. So I wanted to open up the floor to members of council to reflect on our not quite 4 years together. Thank you, Adam. You don't have to hang around if you don't want to. He's still there.
Thanks very
On
much.
our 4 years. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get signed out. Thank you.
Oh, that's right. Let him out. Let him out. Any comments from any members of council on our, I was gonna say our not so 4 years together because COVID sort of put a stick in the wheels of that. Anybody?
What was that? I'm a little like, I'm just kind of questioning the timing, but for the purposes of a public meeting, I mean, this has been actually a pretty fabulous 12 years working with you. It's the times have changed a lot in the last 12 years that I've been here. But this particular last term has been pretty challenging, I think, for us all in so many different ways. Just at this point, I might say more later, but I can't say how much I have valued working with you at the head of the table. Sorry, I can't say too much or I'll start to cry.
Uh-oh. That's great.
No, really, it's meant a lot to me. When I met you, I was sitting out there in the audience as a reporter, a municipal affairs reporter for all 5 municipal councils. And I would have said easily at the time that you were the most quotable individual in the county. And you're still the most quotable individual in the county.
I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not. But
It is a compliment, but as a peer and a co-worker, and you've mentored me and been my friend, and I really appreciate that.
That's very kind. Thank you. It's funny that you say about sitting out there externally, because when Angie and I more or less came on together and, brand new council, brand new Reeve at the time and brand new CAO. And I am not the blurter that I used to be, but we were quite concerned about my blurtiness. And our joke was we were going to get one of those like dog remote collars and we were going to put it on my leg. And she'd sit here, and if she thought I was gonna, because we can feel each other, we're both empaths, so we can feel each other's energy, and that she was going to press the button and shock me when I was about to say something that I shouldn't say. So I think we've moved away from a little bit of that, but a little bit, maybe not all of it. I have some words, but I'm just opening, and it's not, no, I'm not asking you to say about me, it's about us together, the team and the township and everybody together. So did you have your hand up? I'll just keep going. I'll just go around.
Well, my words are about you, whether you like it or not. And I'm going to rely on written text, because if not, I might not hold myself together. So.
Wow. I thought guys all be, get her out of here. Get her out of here. Enough of her.
If strong people are normally taken for granted, strong leaders must be doubly so. We see the face of self-assurance, of impeccably turned out insights, of confident curiosity, and very often the rest of us take shelter behind that. What we recognize less often is what happens below the surface of strong leadership, the late nights, the hours of research and thinking that goes behind an outcome that appears effortless. But even still, these hallmarks rest just millimeters below the surface. What blows me wide open are the much deeper attributes of strong leaders. I've read a lot of work produced by American sociologist Brené Brown, specifically because she does a deep dive into these more central qualities. And many of Dr. Brown's observations are the same ones that I've observed in you. She describes strong leaders not as being those who believe in their own invincibility, but as those who have heart, as those who recognize and shake hands with their own vulnerability and treat it as a gift, as those who put themselves out there in the public arena with courage, not with bravado, with a desire to face the tough conversations head on, but with a laser focus on the process rather than on the outcomes they want. She describes strong leaders as possessing the integrity that I see in you. Integrity, she says, is choosing courage over comfort. It's choosing what's right over what's fun, fast, or easy. And it's practicing your values, not just professing them. She says you can choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you cannot have both. I honor that you have consistently chosen courage. I've also learned through these readings about the key difference between the verbs to respect and to admire. We feel respect when we hold someone in high or special regard for their abilities, qualities, or achievements, even if we don't always agree with them. We feel admiration when someone's abilities, accomplishments, or character inspires us to be better versions of our own individual selves. Carol, I respect you, I admire you, and I thank you so much.
That's very kind. Thank you. But maybe I was going to cry there. That's very, very thoughtful. And I too will be relying on the written word when we get there. Lisa is already crying.
Okay, I didn't really reflect on the last term. The last term has been a challenge.
We hardly saw each other.
Yeah, and I think that staff and council and like the whole community has come together to redefine how to function, and there's been wins and losses, and I think all in all, we've come out stronger. But my words are today more for Carol. When I first considered running for council, I met with Carol and she told me to make sure that I'm running for a multitude of reasons versus one, to make sure that there's enough across the entire municipality in which I could be engaged in. She encouraged me to understand the difference between passion and process. And for the past 12 years, Carol has been more than a mayor. She has been a mentor, a leader, and a friend. Her work ethic, knowledge, and dedication for AH, or the center of the universe, is honorable. The expectations are superior, and thus she raises the bar for council and the township as a whole. Carol has a strong voice and has always worked towards consensus by allowing everyone to speak. She will admit when she is wrong and isn't afraid to champion what is right. Thank you, Carol, for your voice, passion, knowledge, and dedication. And I wish you a sincere congratulations on all the best in whatever you put your passion into next.
Oh, very kind. Yeah, wink. Ms. Shirley.
Thank you. I can't even begin to come close to what Jen said or Lisa, but your knowledge and guidance for me, at least over the last few years, has been amazing, because I think I would have been really lost if it wasn't. But also your passion, your dedication to our township. People don't realize you give everything to this township. And I think if everyone knew how much you gave, they would understand what you do. But I'm saying thank you from everybody, because your passion and dedication is unmeasurable.
Thank you. I was saying to somebody earlier that I've spent 16 years worrying about 8,000 people who don't even know I exist. So that'll be a little bit of pressure off my back. All those words are very, very kind. You've obviously planned behind my back. But
Angie has some.
well, you're already crying. Listen, I just want you to say that all these tears are ruining our reputation of all these strong women, but then to your words, it's just below the surface.
That's right.
I'm wondering about what I wrote. It's like, oh my God, it's not gonna be good enough.
And I won't take long. I just wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you. And it's on behalf of staff and myself for your support for the last 16 years. In your tenure as mayor, you have been an incredible and inspiring leader as the head of council. And I'm very proud to have worked alongside you and for you. When we started this journey together in 2010, you made me a list of 87 things you wanted to accomplish. And I'm happy to say that we accomplished all of those things on the list, along with many other great things with you at the helm, which has ignited a fire in all of us to strive for Algonquin Highlands to always be bigger, better, faster, and stronger, to use your phrase. From all of us here at Algonquin Highlands, we wish you the very best in the next chapter of your adventure.
Thank you. We'll have a hug later. Yeah, thank you. It's a milestone for sure, and it's a bit of a bittersweet one. There's no question. As most people know, it was a very, very difficult decision. And I was saying earlier in the parking lot before our check presentations, which other people will see about later, is the roller coaster of, I got to get out of here. I still have more to give, but I know the answer to that. Like it really has been. And I said to Angie this morning, it's kind of the slowest tearing off of a Band-Aid I've ever experienced. But, you know, I couldn't wait to be here today. And now today is here. And I think, oh my God, this is kind of it. So as you know, I obsessed, but this is my final address to you guys. So, and I know he's watching. So first off, I want to thank my husband, Tony, of course, as the first man, as he is sometimes known. The role of a political spouse can be a minefield, especially in a small town when everybody wants a piece of you. Everybody wants a piece of what they think you know. He has been a patient, supportive partner through all these years. How many times have I been talking to you in the driveway and Tony comes out in the driveway with a little glass of wine, hands it through the car door at 6:30 while I'm still talking to Liz. We're railing about something at county council. The perfect first man, as Liz has always called him. So today's a very big day for him too. And I can announce that we have received word that our RV should be arriving next week. So it's been a genuine honor to have served the citizens of Algonquin Highlands in the county of Haliburton for 16 years. And it feels like yesterday. It's been everything from fascinating to fun to frustrating. And as you guys all well know, every possible emotion in between. On the whole, though, it's been tremendously rewarding. Algonquin Highlands has an exceptional record of innovation, progress, and collaboration, as well as a significant number of firsts in the county. And I'm proud of that, but I'm more proud of the council staff relationships that have made all of those things happen. As you know, I always say that we all need to concede something for the greater good. And I believe that Algonquin Highlands is the embodiment of that sentiment. We don't always agree because we're not supposed to. And while we occasionally will grumble about each other or the decisions we made, we respect each other enough and the process enough to go home with grace over grudge and leave it at the table. And I think that is key to a successful council. We didn't get it right every time because no one does. But I think we worked really hard to recalibrate when we could and worked in earnest to do better. This work is about folding differing views and into a robust and sometimes complicated discussion. And I'm really proud of the work that we've all done together around that. None of us gets what we want all the time, whether that's a staff person, a council member, or a member of the public. Value is found in knowing when to push, when to pull, what hill to die on, and understanding that every decision must be made in the best overall interest of the entire community. And as we all know, every decision upsets somebody somewhere. Sometimes it's years before you hear about that, but every decision we make upsets somebody. I believe the changes we've introduced here have made our community well prepared for the next generation of decision makers. When the external auditor says year after year that he wishes all municipalities were as well run as financially well run as Algonquin Highlands, you know you're on the right track. But none of us has achieved any of these things alone. And it's the continued team spirit of council and staff that has allowed ideas to flourish, solutions to be proposed, and achievements to be made. It's been genuinely gratifying to work with really good people who have consistently brought logic, common sense, compassion, more so since Jen arrived, and compromise to the council table. And together we've developed a sturdy foundation that will be built upon well into the future. The lion's share of our work is connecting with the public. And over the 16 years, I've met a fascinating array of people. And some of them have become friends, which is a really nice addition. I'm thankful for the thousands of constituent conversations I've had, and I'm sure there are in the thousands, even the difficult ones and the uncomfortable ones, because those conversations always help me find frame and focus in some way, even if the people I was talking to didn't know that they were providing that. In fact, there have been many times when the opinions I listened to most closely came from the fiercest critics. I have enormous respect and admiration for council and staff, and I extend my heartfelt thanks to all of you for being strong, fair, and flexible. Many of our decisions are more complex than they appear to the public, and they weigh more heavily than most would ever realize. But we've tackled significant issues, we've made some tough decisions, and provided valuable contributions during some challenging and controversial times. I've learned an extraordinary amount from each of you across a broad range of topics, and for that I offer a sincere thanks. Our community is better for your stewardship, and I wish each and all of you continued fulfillment as you build the next layer of success in your respective roles. Algonquin Highlands has an exciting future, but where there's growth and opportunity, there's also much challenge, and we know that the community's growing needs are already far outstripping the ability to fund and provide for them. But the community is brimming with knowledgeable, impassioned people who have much to offer. The township is on solid footing and has a really strong team. And this council is certainly up to the task of resolving those challenges. So I know that you'll circle back to that logic, common sense, compassion, and compromise to find the way forward in a landscape that feels like it's getting increasingly more challenging. I look forward to spending more time on photography and local heritage and travel. I hope I'm leaving the township a little bit better than when I joined it, but that certainly will be for others to decide in the years to come. I just know that today I'll be stepping out of this room a better, more knowledgeable, and more deeply grateful person than I was when I stepped into it 16 years ago. And every single one of you was part of that. So I thank you for everything you've brought and everything you've given and everything you will take. And that's a wrap. I don't know if other councils do this, but we do. I worked on that a long time. Okay, well, I guess that leaves us with adjournment and cake. She told me. And if Tony, if you're watching, you can come over now. You can come for cake. Okay, so yeah, here we go. This is the final adjournment in my career.
Moved by Councillor Dayu, second by Deputy Mayor Danson, be it resolved the October 27th, 2022 special meeting of council hereby adjourned at 2:26 PM.
All in favor? That is carried. I've never used that before. We are adjourned.